Good morning and welcome to Thursday morning. It is September the 9th today, and this week we are going through a series of devotions on the theme, the righteous judgment of God. We've been in the book of Revelation for a few weeks now. Today's devotion is entitled, The Babylon Identified and Destroyed. Again, remember, so much symbolism in the book of Revelation. And that has left it open to a lot of various and sundry speculations over the years. That's why I'd prefer to go through the book of Revelation with somebody like John Stott, who's not prone to sensationalism, as some prophecy, quote unquote, prophecy experts are. Babylon Identified and Destroyed. The suggested reading is Revelation 18, verses 21 through 24. The lead-in verse actually comes from Revelation chapter 14 and verse 8. Fallen is Babylon the Great, which made all the nations drink the maddening wine of her adulteries. So far in Revelation, Babylon, put that in quotes, Babylon has been mentioned very briefly only twice, but neither text tells us what it symbolizes. So now 2 whole chapters are devoted to the phenomenon, quote unquote, Babylon. Chapter 17 identifies it for us, while chapter 18 describes in graphic detail its destruction. The identification of Babylon we owe to one of the 7 angels who volunteered to instruct John. The angel both showed him a prostitute and then went on to explain to John what he had seen. The woman was sitting on a scarlet beast, readily recognizable as the beast from the sea. Thus wrote Richard Bachman, quote, Roman civilization as a corrupting influence rides on the back of Roman military power, unquote. John also saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of martyrs in chapter 17, verse 6. In conclusion, the angel said to John, the woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. It's chapter 17, verse 18. Now that the identity of Babylon has been established, John goes on at once to describe her overthrow. The literal sack of Rome under Alaric the Goth would not take place for more than another 320 years. Yet, John used the prophetic past tense expressing the certainty of God's judgment as if it had already taken place. Fallen is Babylon the Great. Again, chapter 14, verse 8. 3 groups of human beings are singled out for mention in chapter 18, namely the kings, the merchants, and the seafarers of the world. Each group is heard lamenting the destruction of Babylon. Woe, woe, O great city. Chapter 18, verse 10. The chapter concludes with a combination of celebration and lament, a celebration of the justice of God in judgment and a lament over the disappearance of all good aspects of culture. The sound of music, the skill of craftsmen, the preparing of food for the family, and the joyful laughter of bridegroom and bride. In the first century, quote-unquote, Babylon was Rome. But Babylon has flourished throughout history and throughout the world. Babylon is Vanity Fair. If you have read The Pilgrim's Progress, you know what that alludes to. Its profile can easily be drawn from this chapter. Idolatry, immorality, extravagance, sorcery, tyranny, and arrogance. The urgent call still summons God's people to come out of her in order to avoid contamination. So once again, there are literal references here for John's day, but these references carry through history. When I read those characteristics, the profile, as John Stott puts it here, can easily be drawn from this chapter. What does Babylon represent? Why? How does Rome fit that picture? How does our culture fit that picture and other cultures in the world? Idolatry, anything that we value above God, anything that we crave more than we crave God. Immorality, extravagance, sorcery. I don't know if you've noticed the prevalence of those kinds of things in movies and television these days. People being drawn to that just for trying to find some spiritual answers. Tyranny, prevalent in the world. Tyranny can apply to those who have the wealth and the power to submit others to themselves, to subdue them underneath their ways of doing things. And arrogance. And arrogance. That is so prevalent. So prevalent. Idolatry, immorality, extravagance, sorcery, tyranny, and arrogance. And the urgent call still summons God's people to come out of her in order to avoid contamination. Stop being friends of the world. That sounds like we turn our back on the world, but what it means is we don't become like them. We don't cuddle up to them. For as James would tell us, to be a friend of the world is to be an enemy of God. He uses a very strong language in his letter of adulterers. Don't you know, you adulterers, that friendship with the world is enemy toward God? We can't have two masters. Difficult words in the book of Revelation. I think it's why it catches so many people's attention. It's like a science thriller for them. Left Behind series, I never watched one of them, never read any of the books. But just to capture the drama of it and the fear of it. What we need to do is see it for the prophetic work that it is, as a book of warning and a book of hope for those who will come out from among the things and sins and the ways of this world and enter into the ways of the kingdom. I hope you're living in the ways of the kingdom today and every day. Blessings.